Welcome back to In Session. I'm Jean Casares in for Vinnie Politan this morning. We are just minutes away from the final divorce hearing for South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford and his wife, Jenny.
Even now, since I've made the decision to divorce, I still believe in forgiveness. I believe that everybody is good. In their core, they are good. I still believe Mark's a good person, but he lost sight of the values that matter. He lost sight of his moral compass, and it's not incumbent upon me to not forgive him. I should forgive him. I should let the Lord take care of fixing him.
Let's talk all about the details behind this very public divorce with our experts today. I am joined by fellow In Session host Ryan Smith, In Session legal contributor Midwin Charles, and family law attorney Marvin Solomiany. Oh, thank you so very much. Marvin, I want to talk with you. You practice family law day in and day out. In so many states, we have fault and no fault divorces. They don't use that language in South Carolina, but is that basically what this is?
That is. In the old days, you were required to show a reason why you wanted a divorce. Fault. Nowadays, you don't. However, it's important to understand that in most states, including South Carolina, you can go ahead and allege, apart from the marriage being irretrievably broken, which we know is no fault, you can still go ahead and claim the fault of the other party. In this particular case, we're dealing with the allegation of adultery.
And why is it a benefit to Jenny Sanford to allege this infidelity?
Well, it's just maneuvering. A lot of times when you allege adultery or other conduct grounds for the divorce, you use that to try to gain a better outcome in your divorce case. In this particular case, financials, custody, all those issues are related to the fault in this particular case.
Can you ask for more in regard to support when you are alleging that infidelity?
Every state is different. Adultery is absolutely a cause that the court can consider when the court is dividing, for example, the assets of the party. That is a key thing that the court can consider when dividing assets, as well as any alimony or support for the children as well in particular cases.
Now, why doesn't the governor have to be here? Jenny has to.
Sure. His lack of appearance, if he's not there, what that means is that these two people basically, they filed a divorce and they reached an agreement. Once the court has an agreement that has been executed by both parties, the court is not required to hear from both of them. Only the petitioning party, in this case, the wife, is able to come to court and basically make her case before the judge. So what we're going to see today most likely is what we all regard in the legal community as an uncontested divorce.
Does she say less or should she say more? She's also preserving a record, and it looks like that it's an uncontested divorce, very simple, but you never know because there's continuing jurisdiction in that courtroom by the judge, meaning at any time something can come in and be changed.
That's right. In the typical case, you would expect the judge to basically hear the very bare minimum. She'll go there, she'll raise her right hand, she'll be sworn in, and she will basically state the reasons why she wants a divorce. It's important to understand also that she doesn't necessarily have to say adultery, even though she pled that in her initial complaint for divorce. She can simply come to court and say that I'm here seeking a divorce based on the grounds that the marriage is irretrievably broken, regardless of what she stated in her initial divorce. Now, this is not the typical case. She's written a book. She's alleged adultery. So my guess is the cameras are going to be there. The judge is going to want to hear very little about it, but definitely something about it.
To Marvin Solomiany, you practice family law. What are the documents that the judge has in hand now in regard to all of those things? Property division, child custody, child support, and even alimony.
Right. The first thing that the judge has is the complaint for divorce. The complaint for divorce is what initiates this petition, this case. Mark Sanford filed, I believe, a one-page answer to that complaint, basically saying that, yes, that he's admitted that he committed adultery and that the parties are working at that time towards an agreement. He has that in front of him as well. Now, the big question is, does he actually have the agreement that these parties entered into? Every case is different, but generally the judge will have to look at and approve the agreement of the parties. So chances are that the judge definitely has that agreement in front of him, that in front of her, that the judge has reviewed the agreement, and it's not unlikely for the judge to read the agreement and ask specific questions concerning what she is seeing in that agreement. For example, issues of custody. Those are issues that are ultimately for the court to decide. So him and her could have agreed to something and the judge looks at it. The judge may have a couple follow-up questions regarding that. So again, All that will be very interesting to find out if the judge is going to actually inquire about specific things that are in that actual agreement.
And here's something else. You know, she's represented obviously by an attorney. She was Ivy League educated. She was a stockbroker in New York City. A fabulous career was ahead of her. She gave it all up. She gave it up for his political career. Isn't that worth something now at this point in dollars and cents?
It's absolutely worth something, and it's worth something from two different aspects. You got the alimony claim that generally depends on basically the needs of one spouse and the other spouse's ability to pay the alimony. And more importantly, in this case, you got the assets. How are we going to divide the entire marital estate? Governor Sanford's career in the future, who knows what he's going to do? But we know she certainly knows the assets that they have. So my guess is that she took basically a great majority of those assets to, quote unquote, make up for his conduct, which caused this divorce.
Where is Jenny living now? What's she doing right now?
Wow, she's living with her family in a location that's a little bit away from Charleston. So she and the boys are living there. They're safe. They're happy. They're building a new life. But it's really going to be critical to see how this comes out in court, because I think you make a great point. All these things will be in the agreement, but this is a woman that was independently wealthy. So she's got a lot of wealth on her own, but at the same time, the judge can look at that and say there's got to be a different distribution, right? He could still come in and change it if he wanted to.
Right. South Carolina isn't community property.
Correct.
It's equitable distribution.
Correct.
Right? What does that mean?
Equitable division or equitable distribution basically means the court starts under the assumption that a 50-50 split of the assets is equitable, is fair. But then the court starts looking at specific factors, such as who caused the divorce, who gave up their careers, who's at fault here. And all those factors lead to a property division that is going to be substantially more beneficial for her because of all these issues.
So it gets involved. Do you think it's all settled at this point? Would we have a final divorce hearing if it was still in limbo?
If it was still in limbo, we wouldn't be here today. And the reason why is because a case like this, as many of the assets, as many of the conduct issues that we have, that case typically takes a long time to get ready for. And once there's a hearing, as you know, you could be talking about 4 or 5 days, weeks of trial regarding how to decide all these issues.
All right, but the day has come. It is the final divorce hearing, Sanford v. Sanford. It's the first time that ever a sitting governor in the state of South Carolina is going through a divorce that is plagued with another woman. Coming back, we'll have more on the case live in a minute from South Carolina.
I find that the testimony presented with regard to the ground for divorce on the grounds of adultery was sufficiently proven by the plaintiff, and I grant her divorce on the grounds of adultery.
And we want to get the reaction of our guests here to this legal hearing just concluded in South Carolina, a divorce action. Not so often do we have the cameras in the courtroom for a divorce action, but not so often is it the governor of South Carolina. First to Marvin Solomiany, family law attorney. We heard a lot of detail in this hearing. The testimony of the one witness, the First Lady. Not only does she talk of sexual relations of a woman other than herself, but she actually named the other woman. Is that important for the record?
Extremely important. And the reason is the petitioner in this case, Jenny Sanford, held her own with respect to the adultery claim. A lot of times people will go to court and simply say, we no longer want a divorce based on the grounds of adultery. She stuck to her case. As a result, she had to prove the element of adultery, and that's the reason why there were so many questions regarding the specifics as to what she knew, when did she know it.
So does that tell you that there are some alimony issues that may have to do with this adultery? She may be asking for more than she otherwise would?
Well, not only with alimony, but more importantly with respect to the property division regarding the estate. We do know that there are substantial assets in this case, and that adultery issue goes to the heart as to how those assets will be divided.
Good point. I mean, she really does get in those court documents that he committed adultery, Marvin.
She pled it and she proved it. And it was very important because as she moves forward, she's got 4 kids to account for. And I think it was very important for her to establish that Mom did not want this divorce. This divorce was something that your dad created, and I went ahead and did what I needed to do. That's why you heard the adultery claim today.